Can I go to the sleepover?
I want you to promise me something. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
My name is Thomas Crowl. I'm a Georgetown, Scott County resident. I've lived here for about 10 years, and my most recent book, released in October by Kent State University Press, is Queen of the Con: From a Spiritualist to the Carnegie Imposter. It's a true crime book about a lady who was a swindler and a con artist, and she actually claimed to be Andrew Carnegie's illegitimate daughter. And on the basis of that, she was able to borrow the equivalent in today's dollars of $200 million. She was a genius as far as being, a criminal genius, and a genius at putting together all these details and keeping everything straight, keeping her story straight. The difficult part about writing a book was that, unlike most criminals, she never gave an interview, she never testified in court, she never told investigators or interrogators anything. And it made it hard to figure out what she did. You had to follow newspaper accounts and so forth, but she was a remarkable criminal for sure. Time magazine lists her as number 8 on their all-time top 10 imposters in the world. Queen of the Con is a true crime book which holds particular appeal, I think, for women, because in a lot of ways the main character, Cassie Chadwick, was an extremely unusual woman who was well ahead of her time. She had acquired a great deal amount of business savvy and understood finance in ways that the vast majority of women during the Gilded Age did not, simply because women were not expected to do that. That was not the way the gender roles were laid out and so forth. So she's very interesting from that standpoint, and I think would appeal to women readers quite well. I originally stumbled across the story when I was doing some research on another story, and I tucked it away and thought I'd look into it later. When I did start to look into it, I found that there were 2, maybe 3 books written about her. One was called Gold Brick Cassie, the other one was called The Incredible Mrs. Chadwick or something like that. But they were fictionalized accounts. They essentially cherry-picked a few pieces of fact, and then rather than take the time to do the full research and so forth, they just filled in the dialogue and so forth. And there was no true non-fiction account of her life, and I found that it was a fascinating story. If you're going to write a book, it's always a good idea to fall in love with a character who has enough information about them that you can write a book and not have to fake it. So there was a lot of information and material. Most of it came from contemporary newspaper accounts, and there was one, it was standard practice back in those days and even into the 20th century for newspapers and so forth to put together little pamphlets about important stories of the day, and they would sell those pamphlets, which were kind of a summary. Even before the thing was over, they would sell these little pamphlets, and so there was one of those written, and I used that as well. They're all available on Amazon, of course. I don't know that any of them will be available locally. You can probably, you can get them from standard sources like Barnes & Noble and places like that. I don't know that any of them locally would be carrying them on the bookshelf, since it deals primarily with northeastern Ohio, and the woman was from Canada, so we're marketing and trying to market in Canada too as well because of that. But online today, it's not hard to find the book. I don't know if they've come out with the ebook yet. They will. There will be an ebook. All publishers do that eventually, yeah. If you're really interested in not just writing books, but in selling books, you need to pick a genre where people are going to be wanting to read. True crime is always popular. Studies have shown that women are more interested in true crime than men are, and tend to be more inclined to read true crime books than men are, which is kind of unusual. I would think it doesn't intuitively hit you that way. But I'm interested in history, I'm interested in social history, and true crime fills those roles, and how we respond, how we as a society respond to crime at any given point in time in our history and currently says a lot about the society at that particular time. And so you can learn a lot about American society by looking at its crimes and how it responds to them.